Please stand as you're able and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome to the Board of Trustees meeting for the School Town of Speedway for July 11th, 2023. We are working from a 9-item agenda. The first item on the agenda this week is to approve the minutes of the June 13th meeting.
I'll move that we approve the minutes from our June 13th, 2023 meeting.
Thank you.
I'll second. Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Minutes are signed.
Item number 2 is to approve the agreement for the special purpose bus contract.
Thank you, Mr. President. Every 3 years, we have to go out for bid for a special bus purpose. Let me say that right. Special purpose bus contract. This year, we sent it out to multiple groups, and Miller Transportation once again came in with the lowest bid that was responsive. Last year was roughly around $180,000. We pay per day. That's why I say roughly. This year there was an increase, but like everything we see is a 30% increase, and this one's only up to $204,000 roughly. So my recommendation is to approve Miller Transportation for the next 3 years for our special purpose bus contract.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the agreement for special purpose bus contract with Miller Transportation.
Thank you.
And I will second that.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the agreement for special purpose bus contract. Is there any discussion on this? Okay. Seeing none. All those in favor of approving the agreement, please raise your hand. Opposed? Okay, that passes 5-0. Item number 3 is an update on some ISBA policies.
Mr. President and Board, this last session, we had over 50 new laws that passed. So throughout time, we are going to continue to go through our policies and try to match those with, well, not match, we will match those with law. And the first one I'd like to bring to your attention is called the Teacher Appreciation Grant. This is a routine grant and a routine policy that we bring to you. Without this, our teachers cannot get paid for this grant, and we do not know the amount of this money until later in this year, until we see how many schools apply and what they get. In general, this is for all teachers that are highly effective and effective, with 25% a difference between the highly effective and effective. So I know the teachers are very appreciative of this as they get this check in December. So that's a nice little gift for them once we get down that road. So my recommendation is to approve the Teacher Appreciation Grant.
Okay. We'll address each of these policies individually because they each have unique needs. Yep. What's the board's pleasure on the Teacher Appreciation Grant?
I'd like to move that we reapprove the existing policy for teacher appreciation grants.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this? Okay. All those in favor of reapproving the existing teacher appreciation grant policy, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed? That passes 5-0. The next policy is the service animals in public events.
Thank you, Mr. President and Board. This is from B to F, all these are required by state, and these are updates to the ISBA. We do use board docs, and they are posted online right now on our website, so people can see this. But the first one is, again, required by law here, and it's a service animals. We got this policy from the ISBA. In general, the board will adopt a policy to ensure that individuals with disabilities are permitted to participate in and benefit from school corporation programs, activities, and services provided to the public, and to ensure that the school corporation does not discriminate on the basis of disability. We've gone through a few trainings on this with our attorneys or whatnot. Again, this is right from the ISBA, so I'm open for discussion.
It's the board's pleasure.
I move that we approve the service animals at public events policy to be added to our school board policies, or school system policies, actually.
I'll second that with the caveat that there are some punctuation amendments, that I've given you, that we would make those. So no
Absolutely.
substance, purely punctuation to help make sure that we don't run into a problem because of something being mispunctuated.
I accept that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
The bit of discussion that I would make is that this policy, while it is titled generally service animals, it is specific in that service animals are defined as a dog or a miniature horse. And so the policy doesn't allow for, it doesn't set up an argument for anything under the sun to be labeled as such. We're following the state law, and the state law sets this up. I was surprised that things it didn't cover, things it does, and so, but that is what the policy covers.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving the policy with the punctuation corrections, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Okay, that passes 5-0. The next policy is the bullying policy.
Middle of spring, we always bring you our student handbook, and we pass our handbook, which has laws and policies involved, encompassed inside of that student handbook. And then we have to wait for legislation to finish. So this is one that's an additional piece for the bullying part, and I'll just read, a lot of this is very similar to what we have, but there's two parts I'd like to make sure I verbally say out in the public. The first one's on the page 2, and it's underneath the dark bolded area. The parents of the alleged perpetrator and the targeted students shall be notified of the reported bullying incidents within 5 business days of the report of such incidents. And then the second part of that, during the investigations, the school's priority will be the safety of the victim. The investigation may include a determination of the severity of the bullying incidents and whether the transfer of an alleged perpetrator or victim to another school within the school corporation is warranted. We say that because this is what was given to us by state law, so that's the additional piece of this. And then the back page, the final page, is parents will be allowed to review any or all materials used in school corporations' bullying and suicide prevention programs. So we want to be transparent that those are additional pieces that will need to blend in with what we've already passed. Okay. So I'm open for discussion.
It's the board's pleasure.
It would be my pleasure to wait to bring this next month so that we can do the blending.
Blending with our attorneys and yours, and the board.
It's just such an important aspect of our student handbook and something that we take incredibly seriously, that I would like to see exactly where that the newly required language fits in with our existing language.
Are there any other comments?
I'm in agreement.
So no motion, I think you can.
Yeah,
it's
I
just-
think it's reasonable
I'll
that
just
we'll
bring it-
table
I'll put
this
it
one
back
for the
on.
future.
Yeah,
Okay,
we'll just move it to the
Thank you.
next. We'll continue to follow state law.
yes.
That doesn't mean we don't have a policy.
That is, yeah, absolutely.
The next policy to discuss is the criminal history information.
Thank you, Mr. President. And these two could fall in the next few, just like what we did there. But let me go ahead and explain that we do have a criminal history policy that's already in our policy. It's online again. It's in our book. But these are two additional ones that we just got, new policies in June, so we're still working through this. But the pieces here that are new that we don't necessarily have in our policy that I believe that we need to add because of state law, they're the exact same two for the next two policies. If more than one type, and it's on page 1 on both, if more than one type of expanded criminal history check is available to the school corporation, the school administration shall evaluate all expanded criminal history check types to determine the comprehensive expanded criminal history check, providing the most protection for students. The expanded criminal history check determined to have better protection for students will be utilized for the purposes of this policy. And after doing research on this, we use Safe Schools. They're in Crawfordsville, and they're one of the best in the states. They do have multiple checks, and we do use them.
We used the company, or we used multiple checks from that company?
Both.
Okay, thank you. Again, this is a blend into existing policy for the
It would
institution,
be.
for the school system, right, school corporation? So I think I would prefer to see the blend of the new language required by the state law with the existing policy to make sure that we put it in the appropriate place of what our existing policy is, and then we make corrections to our existing policy to follow the state law.
Excellent.
Again, as something that's so important, it'd be better to do that in one fell swoop. And
Let's get it right.
and we have an existing policy and would be following any requirements that are different in the next 30 days, but we can get the whole thing taken care of in August.
And again, we'll continue to follow state law in everything we do. We do as many checks as we can, so.
As a person that does all of the criminal history checks, I can tell you by looking at the recommendation from ISBA, we follow everything they do, but it's not in writing of that. So one of the big things in the new legislation is that, if there's more than one way of doing that, to do it, and we do. The other thing is if a person the corporation will not hire or contract with an individual who has been convicted of any felony crime or other crimes provided in state law. If I would ever get something like that, they wouldn't be considered for employment with us. So we follow that policy. It's just it's not written down. So I think it's a great thing. We table it until we match it to what we currently do. And there really won't be much change in what we do. But I think it's great that we table it until we get that in writing.
And this would involve both the criminal history information and the criminal history checks policy, right? Which exist currently.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there a motion on the table? So I can add discussion? Just to let the board know, we do follow the law that was passed 5 years ago. Every year we take 20% and we run them back through. And I'm just saying, I'm not going to speak for all corporations in the state, but Speedway does do that. So every year we pay for another background check, and we're now all the way through background, probably to the front end, every 20%. So we do that on top of all this.
To clarify, that means they get a background check prior to employment, and then they also get one.
Every 5 years.
They're in the rotating pool, which is really, I think, really impressive. And when we set that up, we knew it was a costly thing, but it was important to us. And
Yes.
I'm thank you, because I had a note to ask you to make sure we were still in fact doing, yeah.
Yep.
And for the public and for you guys, that when we do this expanded criminal history check. It used to be just for the state of Indiana. Now expanded means it's nationwide. But it also has a component of child protection with it. So when it talks about all the things that are available to you, all of our employees goes through a child protection search also. So our business that deals with children, we don't want someone that's had some type of conviction with that. So there is a check on every, I hope that's good for people that are listening. There's a check on everybody that walks through our doors, and we've done that.
Well, thank you. We will table both the criminal history and the criminal history check policies. The next policy for us to consider is our participation at board meetings. And we have a current policy in place. Over time, it's important that we reevaluate policies and look to make sure that we're offering the appropriate opportunities for individuals in our community to be able to bring concerns, bring questions, bring comments to the board. And we have some suggestions of some changes.
Yes, so given that I had been thinking that our current practice was not necessarily spelled out in our current policy, that we have allowed broader participation, and it made sense to me that we would have the policy match up with that. And so I move that we amend our current policy in the following ways. Again, there are a couple of, the policy that I'm not sure if like board docs just doesn't do apostrophes or if, how that, but obviously those types of things we would want to correct. And then so we have it, we welcome public attendance, and we talk about visitors signing in and providing their name and address, and that visitors who live anywhere can attend, but only people who live in Speedway or our employees can address the board. When such a visitor wishes to address the board, they need to specify the topic when signing in, and the following procedures will be followed. And so item 1, we had previously stated that visitors who speak will only be permitted to speak on agenda action items, and if a visitor wishes to address the board, there's a process they had to go through. To make that easier, the practice that we've been following is that a visitor it needs to be an agenda item, but we've expanded that by allowing visitors who wish to discuss something that isn't one of the early enumerated items to discuss something that would fall under other business. And so I would propose that we delete the sentence that you got to talk to the superintendent ahead of time, you blah, 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 and instead insert the language, a visitor who wishes to discuss a topic that would fall under other business may do so by designating that topic when signing in. And that's what we've allowed to happen the last few months, and so that would bring our policy in line with that. Then the visitor needs to state their name and home address. The visitor can speak up to 2 minutes. We had broken up as a 3 and a 4, 2 minutes period, and then a number 4, time will be kept, and a bunch of stuff related to that. I would say that's all the same number. So let's simplify that and turn that into number 3 itself. And then the total time for comment of the public is no more than 30 minutes, but we can expand that if it becomes necessary. That would be the new number 4, new number 5. This is only new in the numbering. The language would stay the same. Number 5, we currently have board members may, but are not expected to, respond to or ask questions of a visitor who has addressed the board. I would propose adding what is really superfluous language, because that's all we really do need to say, but the reason behind that, so that the public understands that the purpose of public comment is to give the board information and not engage in debate. And so it isn't the time to come during the 2 minutes that you would have and try to engage in debate. It is, again, the time to give us the information that we need. And so I would propose adding that sentence. And then that's it.
Okay.
That is my motion. Approve the policy with those amendments.
I will second that.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we update the participation at public school board meetings with the policy that Ms. DeGay shared. Is there any discussion on this? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed? That passes 5-0.
Can I ask an administrative question about how does this work into board docs? Because this is our policy and not something that's coming straight out of state law. So it's not really like it's IC dash blah, 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 which tells us it's out of the Indiana code. How do we fit this into our board docs and make it accessible to the public?
I will struggle to find my login and password, and I can go in and push an edit button, and then I can edit it myself.
So it already exists
And then I
in
can run a copy. It
board docs?
does. Yeah, we did this.
Available to everyone.
We did this a year ago, last summer, that we invested in board docs, so it gives us the rights to do that, which there's two pieces of this. I've said this already in this meeting. It's up and live. If you go to board on our website, you can see what we have, and we're going to continue to clean that. Number two, that will give us access to go ahead and put the new, anything that we pass here, the new versions up so people can see that. And I would advise that we revisit this and just review it. It's not an action item, but we'll review it the first thing in our August meeting, just because, make sure it's clean. People have time to see it and make sure we're very communicated with everybody on that.
Great. Item number 4 is the 2024 budget assumptions.
Thank you. This is not an action item. This is just information for you for the next meeting. It's kind of like the pregame of budget time, which I enjoy very, very much. I also enjoy very much is our academic success, and tomorrow embargoed scores will come out, and I think our community and our students and our teachers and educators will be very happy with what we're here for, and that is a great academic the success of academics for all our kids. And that's because of our board that we focus on, like we've said over and over, like the referendum, we talk about great teachers, small class sizes, and eliminate distractions. And when we do that, you're going to see great results. So that's one piece of academics. The second favorite part, I think of, well, they're 1 and 2 to me, is the financial side of this. For the last 4 or 5 years, we've kind of been running the same game that we have, not necessarily a game, but the same idea and focus, and that is to continue doing what we're doing to be financially secure. And throughout the whole state of Indiana, I can tell you Speedway School Corporation is financially secure at this point in time. Very happy about that. There's multiple funds I'm going to talk about, just very briefly, and I'll bring the full presentation to you in the August meeting. Remember that the town council will eventually have to do a whole month in advance than other school corporations. So if you ever hear, why are we doing this so early? We have to because of the town of Speedway. So the education fund, we're going to operate a balanced budget and maintain a cash balance. We will have an increase in health insurance, and I think anybody in the United States right now, I'd be shocked if anybody goes down, but we're predicting anywhere from a 13% increase all the way up to a 20% increase. We have to plan for that, and we pray that that doesn't happen actually. So just know that we put a large amount of money in that this year to hopefully that we can get everything, not hopefully, we will get that covered. State support will slightly increase. I am so proud of my colleagues, superintendents. The night before legislation ended, Speedway Schools, we would like to have an 8 to 12% increase just for inflation or whatnot. Was that a laugh or was that a, no? I was laughing. I know, when I said 8 to 12 right at that time. We would love to have an 8 to 12% increase to pay our teachers, to cover the inflation, to cover our electric bills and whatnot. Folks, that just didn't happen. And it was around 4% until all colleagues, superintendents around the state called their state senators, and somehow overnight things got changed. So I am appreciative of that. We went to a 5.2% increase the first year. We'll have a 1.7 on the second year. So for negotiations that we're in this first year, the education fund, just that's a big deal, that we'll have some money at the beginning to pay our teachers for a raise. I will tell you that we've always said that Speedway pays the best. We do pay very, very well. You're going to see the results tomorrow. You're going to get what you pay for. But I'm telling you, we are not a big gap now between other school corporations. So that is something we're going to have to continue to look for to make sure that we can address that gap. Severance funding, and that's something no one wants to talk about, but I talk about that a lot because we need to be prepared for anybody that retires this next year. We have anywhere from 2 to 6 people that I could see retiring the next year. That's our big fund, the education fund, and that's what we get money from the state from per ADM, which is our membership. How many kids do we get is what we get paid for. It used to be that simple, but it's not anymore. They moved the ADM date from September 15th to October 2nd now. So it's a little pushed back. It is pushed back. And during the negotiation year, we have to ratify a contract by November. If you're still following me on all this, it really creates a crunch time for us to get that thing done. But we have a great relationship with our CTA, and I believe that we'll be fine on that. So that's the education fund. It's healthy. But we're going to be, now that ESSER is going away the next 2 years, the education fund will be used more and more, and that's for people. People. Operations fund, we never have enough. The electric bills at home are high, so are ours. This pays for maintenance of facilities, technologies, transportation, and will offer flexibility in staffing in 2024. Like we just passed the special purpose bus contract, that's where that money comes from. So that is from the property taxes that pays for those things, and I'm going to talk more about that in the capital asset fund. The referendum fund, thank you community. We have 8 years now with the referendum. Anything after July 1st, you'll have to share referendum money with anyone that claims that they are a charter school. They have to claim that they would like that money, and if any student leaves Speedway and goes to that charter school in 2032, the way the law is right now, that money will follow them. But since Speedway passed a referendum at 79.2%, we are free of that until 2032, if you will. That's when it runs out, 8 years from now. So the referendum is healthy. We will keep the referendum rate stable with a slight decrease. But right now, I'm going to bring it up. New legislation set, and it's a good thing for parents. I'm a parent myself. Free textbooks, curricular materials for students. So with saying that, all good things, that's a good thumbs up. It's a bad thing on how we've done it. We just have to adjust for a year. Because this could be, it's not as simple as a kindergartner or a first grader, $165 per kid. We have high school kids that are Project Lead the Way, Area 31. We have kids all over the place, and it's not $150 either. So the school corporation, on top of new textbook adoptions, all the way to where a teacher in the science department does all the labs. We used to, that would be something a parents would pass on or the state would reimburse, and now that's on the school corporation. I will say this: we are going to work with our legislators and hopefully increase that amount. But right now they're looking at roughly $155 to $160 per kid that they'll reimburse. That will not cover the Speedway kids. We're not going to change anything this year, but we're going to have to adjust, and we got to see how this plays out. That's why the community and why the parents voted for a referendum, to make sure that we can still give our kids, as it said at the beginning of time, we want to give our kids in Speedway that opportunity. So we will have a slight decrease on referendum because the AVs increase, but there's some play in that we'll have to make sure that we can cover our bills too. Debt service, this is my favorite topic. We're at 0.04 right now. And most school corporations are anywhere from 20 cents to over $1, and we're still at 4 cents on that. So newbie will be falling off that project from 4 years ago here soon, and then we'll see how the world's working at that time and how things happen. The total tax rate, I'd like to thank Nancy Johnson this time. She does a tremendous job on this. We work on this we talk about it 3 days a week year round. Is the tax rate and what we can do and this, that, or the other. My prediction right now, and as things change from time to time, but by August, I believe we'll have remain the same to a decrease in our tax rate from 20, and that's for a lot of reasons, but I think with the referendum, with the assessed value, we can decrease that slightly and still get by for the 2024 to have a successful academic year. And those are my assumptions.
That's great. Thank you very much. Any discussion on that? Any questions? Okay. The next item on the agenda is to authorize the publication of our 2024 capital asset plan.
Thank you, Mr. President. The capital asset plan is inside of the operation fund. So we just gave the assumption for the operation. This is just to publish it, which will go online, which we have to, Nancy Johnson will do her magic here to make sure that the public has time to take a look at this, and we'll have a public hearing in the August meeting. So that's what that is. Inside of the capital asset plan is typically projects that you're going to do for your school corporations or technology purchases, anything over $10,000. Well, they're asking us to approve something to predict what we'll need in January. Right? Thank you for the snicker on that. So it's always intriguing on me, so we cover ourselves. That doesn't mean we're going to do all this, but it means that this gets me some cover and gets us not just coverage, but it kind of gives us a goal and a plan of what we need to do. Any day in Speedway schools, our brand new building of 1963, we know we have problems. But for example, technology, servers, switches, wireless equipment, I'm on page 2. You'll see this on both pages. Our technology with Chromebooks, we were moving in the direction to charge students and parents a small fee for our Chromebooks because we've been covering that for a while, but Chromebooks are covered in what the legislation just passed that you can't be charged. So that's another good thing for parents, whatnot. But we might have to, instructional materials. But this could be something that we could pick up in this area. So I added that in this. Our batwing mower, just to talk about some mowing for a second. Lou Grimes does a great job, and JD and Matt and our team, but it's about time. It's eventually the PTO shaft just doesn't do anything. So a batwing mower, a zero-turn commercial mower, parking lot resurf is a big one at 300. I always put that in there to safeguard it because if we have a bad winter, it depends on the winter. I have to see what happens first in December and January and how many times do we have to clear the lots. I added pool starters, diving board, and painting the pool in this plan. If that's something, if you haven't been in there a while, let me know. We can take a walk through there, but that is some things that I think it's time to replace. They're not cheap, but I think it's time to liven that up. And the remodel classrooms at the bottom on page 2 is we have to see our numbers for kindergarten and pre-K. And we've done something here that we thought it had 3 or 4 years ago, I guess, and moving over here, we do have the central office area that if we have to move that to a classroom to accommodate high school classrooms, or if we have another 185 students for kindergarten, well, we need to have, I'd rather put them in a building than in a portable. So that's something that I want to safeguard here. Let's see where our numbers come in at. And if anybody knows that, I'd like to hear what that number is for Speedway numbers. Good luck with that one. I mean, our high school right now is at 500. I saw the number today, 580. 80, I might be off by 1 or 2.
82.
I was off by 2. 582. Just so you know, when I was a principal, we were finished about 505, 502, 498 at the end of mine, and that was 5 years ago, but that's a big number. So we have 2 classes together, freshmen, sophomores, 160 and 160. Do the math. It gets a little tight in there. Okay. The rest of this, as you can see, I have to put down anything over 10,000, like I said before, and I'll finish on this. I'm on page 1. It says page 1, but flip over to where the capital project plan on the front. I just want to bring that to your attention. If you go to the far right side, 2023, our tax rate, the bottom right, again, I live in this world, is 85 cents, 85.15. That includes operation fund, that includes referendum and debt, and as you can see, over the years from 2017, we are 82 cents. We've gone from 83, 87, 84, 91, 90, and we actually went down 5 cents last year. So we're going to be right at that same mark, maybe a little less, once we get all of our numbers in and see what we can do on that. Make sure there's nothing else I'd like, and the rest is just little details within each building because state law required us to move things to make sure that each building is divided up in everything we do. So it's a lot divided by 6 or whatever that may be. And that is, my recommendation is to approve the publication of the 2024 capital asset plan.
Great. Thank you.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the publication of the 2024 capital asset plan.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I'd just like to thank you, and I hope that the public is hearing what I just heard, which is decrease, less than, taking assessed value increase into account, all the things that people talked about during the referendum discussions. I mean, we do those. And so we are not, we've always been authorized to, take more money, and we never have. And so I just appreciate that you guys are able to figure out how to make that happen. So we are delivering an incredible product that pulls from our people at at only the level that it needs to. And that's, as a resident here, and I'm proud of that, and I'm grateful. So thank you.
Well, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Item number 6 is to acknowledge the grants received, which is a total of $241,379.12. Item number 7 is our personnel report.
Our personnel report grew this last week, and it grew today. So I'm sorry about some of the late additions to you. On the personnel report, we have 4 resignations. Marcus McCormick, who's been our head baseball coach for the past 17 years, has resigned his position. He's going to be the athletic director at the junior high and a physical education teacher there. Cindy Franklin Toon, who's been a longtime Spanish teacher at the high school, resigned her position. Megan Horger, who's been a cafeteria worker for us for many years, and Bailey McGee, first grade teacher at Wheeler Elementary. For employment, Andrea McIntosh is moving her position to Director of Programs for us. Kimberly Einstein is being recommended for employment as an elementary teacher. She'll be teaching preschool. Jordan Weschler is a custodian for us. Susan Mantala works for us, but she'll be moving from a 4-hour position in the cafeteria to a 6-hour position. Amanda Totten also works for us as a 4-hour position, moving to a 6-hour position. That is, I'm noticing on this report, that's at Speedway Junior High School, not Speedway High School. My apologies, there's a typo on that. So she'll be the 6-hour position at Speedway Junior High School. Renaya Leachman, cafeteria worker at the Speedway Junior High School, 3-hour position. Megan Smeltzer, cafeteria position at Speedway High School, a 4-hour position. And Joe Rush, an English learner, teacher at Speedway High School. Also in the back of your packet is, this time of year, there's a lot of changes starting to happen on their ECAs. And if you'll go back to the color scheme on this, and that is, if it's a new employee to the corporation, you would have that in your packet, and there are none this time on this document. But we have some employees that have accepted new positions, and I promise you there'll be more. There'll be more next board meeting. So with that, I would ask that you approve the personnel report as presented.
Move we approve the personnel report as presented.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the personnel report?
Only one is that thanks again to you two and the principals. You know, when you get caught late in the year, having gone through that myself, it's hectic, and I know that all of us appreciate. So on behalf of all of us, thank you for your willingness to change on the fly with what you had a week ago to what you've had to do since that time.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to personally thank Cindy Franklin Toon for 33 years of service to the school town of Speedway. She's was one of my favorite teachers. I'm a former student of hers, so I just wanted to sneak that in there. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. All those in favor of approving the personnel report as presented, please indicate by raising your hand. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item number 8 is recognition of visitors and other business. Hello.
If I could add something here, and the registration is open. It's hard to believe that 2 years ago that every student in Speedway would come into our buildings and register, every parent and student would come into our buildings and register. Now it's online. Please register your student. We talked about numbers. You can register today, or you can register tomorrow, but we'd prefer you not wait until the first day of school because we don't know how many teachers that we need to cover all the areas we could. So if there's questions with registration, call your building level principal and they'll help you with that.
Thank you. Anything else?
I think 21 days till students, roughly.
All right. Wonderful.
Okay.
Great. Well, we will move on to adjourn and approve claims. Thank you for coming.